Hadija Twaiga-Mwaura, #Daybreak at Citizen TV Kenya will sample some of your views in this broadcast. What then is the role of the citizen in this era of deep state capture, so to speak?
According to Kenya Human Rights Commission.
According to you, and that's where I want to go direct. Kenya Human Rights Commission is that it's not us. They are the ones who are saying it. And listen, in your view, has devolution simply broadened the corruption net, or is it just bad across board?
Okay, before I comment on that, I'd like to pick up from where he left about the power of the people. Yeah. There are certain developments that we are seeing of late that are curtailing the sovereignty of the people and the power of the people to participate in stopping corruption or in curtailing corruption. And I'd like to speak about strategic lawsuits against public litigation, and popularly known as SLAPs. And SLAPs are frivolous cases that, parties with power and with authority and with money bring to frustrate those it is that are bringing particular change. And we saw this with the case of Githongo, for instance. You're a whistleblower, and then you face repercussions as a result of your whistleblowing. So how is it that Wanjiku is going to participate in this whole process of governance and ensuring that we are not losing money and holding people accountable? If at all you're going to whistleblow and the next thing you know it, you're being slapped, with a case, and then the judiciary or the court slaps you with a cost that you cannot even be able to pay in your lifetime. So that particular issue is, slap suits are designed to frustrate, the other person to ensure that, they get busy with finding lawyers, with legal processes, and so on and so forth, that they lose the campaign. And for instance, if you look at what this group is doing with the issue of Kenya Power, if that happened to them, on the basis of the fact that they probably said something that would be considered to be injurious to the reputation of the company, it means then that they no longer have the capacity to concentrate on the particular campaign it is that they are running. So it is a process of trying to frustrate people from agitating for public good. But going into the question that you have just raised, I think, oftentimes people have talked about, that the fact that, we have devolved corruption as we, as devolution came, we devolved corruption and so on and so forth. But I think it's trying to remove the eyes of the people from the bigger picture of where we are actually losing colossal amounts of money. And as we're discussing, at the break, if you look at the proportion of money that, the national government holds vis-a-vis what the county government holds, you cannot compare the amount of money that you're losing, at the national level with those that you're losing. But still, most of the counties have audit queries. Exactly. Most of them have audit queries. We are not saying that corruption at any level is better than the other, but we are saying it is at the national government level that we are losing the most money.
Can I just contribute to that? When she talks about the intimidation of the citizen, many people will ask, why will you get out from your comfortable home to go and demonstrate? Why will you get out to go and speak out for issues that affect you? But if I don't speak out now, when will I speak out? We're seeing intimidation not only when we were on the street on Thursday. For me, it hadn't been on the street for many years. Seeing those 3 policemen walk down and tell us that we were not legally there, yet we had followed the law. The right to demonstrate and to picket in a peaceful manner is enshrined in our constitution. It's under the Bill of Rights. And you have the license and permits. And we had the license and the permits.
What did they say when you showed it?
They said that the documentation was not in order, that they didn't recognize the signature. What they did not anticipate was our purpose and our resolve. We knew that we had to give those 3 petitions. And we managed. I think, we kind of outwitted them. But to eat that tear gas 4 times was unnecessary. But now the intimidation goes on when you find our lawyer. And Cheritechu has, actually been part of this campaign from from the beginning. Her account has been frozen. Elvis's her personal account, our pay bill as well has been frozen. That we had put on Twitter. As of last night. For this?
Does anyone explain why it's been frozen?
I mean,
is there any court orders on this?
No. None whatsoever. So of course they'll tell you, the bank involved will tell you it's technical hitches here and there. But as of last night when I spoke with her, she was like, she's unable to receive any funds. Elvis, his personal accounts are frozen. So you wonder, how will people then get onto the street? How will people get into campaigns? Because the people is being curtailed at this particular moment. It is. And you asked, why were we 30 or 40 people? Because nobody wants to be tear gassed. I'm not demonstrating to be arrested. I'm not going to...
You don't look forward to it.
No. That is not my intention. My intention, if my intention is to serve a petition, that is what I want to do. I don't have any stones in my pockets. We didn't have any bags. We didn't, you have your phone. Surely, are you going to use that phone and hurl it to the officer? Really, it won't do much damage. So, but when everybody looks at the amount of tear gas, I mean, I remember at the point when we got to the Supreme Court, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't see. But I made it to the Chief Justice's office with my fellow EJ6ers. And we were able, and having to negotiate with the police and tell them, please.
We just want to present.
We just want to present. No, you needed to have come to Central. No, you needed to have gotten your security from here. No, what you're doing is against the law. What if the president, how is it against the law? When I go to my constitution, when I go to my Katiba tells me what my rights are. Even Nasir, the member of parliament for Movita, he said when he met us, you are well within your rights. But let me tell you, fear is a terrible thing. Fear is what makes us pay KPLC. When an MD can sit and say that a Kenyans colluded with his members of staff to defraud, whose responsibility is it?
Before a parliamentary committee, and that was...
And Liz,
go ahead.
Because I was wondering, we keep talking about this, and we have this report several years down the line. We are still at 27, still doing very badly when it comes to the Corruption Perception Index. Do these reports actually have an impact, or is it just makes fodder for conversation, like what we're having right now?
No, the reason as to why research is important, of course, is it gives you the evidence base of doing your advocacy. And for us, for any study that we undertake, we do not leave it at that and keep it in a library. What we do is that we take these recommendations very seriously and we start engaging the respective duty bearers on the recommendations that we have given. But just to add on to what she has said, I think these days the modus operandi of this government is that for every public protest or demonstration, there has to be excessive use of force. Just before that, we had another protest in which we were giving solidarity to the people of Sudan. And you would wonder, why would we be tear-gassed in a matter such as that? It is not our government that we are holding to account, but we are showing solidarity with people that are being, are living in an authoritarian regime. And you would wonder, why would government find it necessary to tear-gas? So I think what I think is happening is that there's some fear with the state about people organizing. It doesn't matter what you're organizing about, whether you're in support of another state or whether you're organizing about, things like, Kenya Power and whatever. The fact that you're organizing, I think there's a lot of fear around it. And that becomes makes the issue of organizing citizenry around issues of governance, such as corruption and, electoral issues like we are discussing this morning, extremely difficult, where any public gathering is seen to be, a threat to the state.
Yes, and I want to bring up a report. There's a diagram we have. It's a 2016 survey on corruption in Kenya. So EACC was asked whether Kenyan reasons why they give bribes. That's almost the first diagram that we have. And more than 72.5% of them said they give bribes because it was demanded. And that's the one on the screen right now. It's a 2016 survey on corruption in Kenya. EACC asked Kenyans the reasons why they give bribes in exchange for public service, and the results have been reconfined down there. So the first reason why people give bribes why he gets because it's been demanded. So nobody wants to stand up and say, I'm not going to give it.
Now, the 28.4% that say it was because of expediting services, that is something very interesting to look at, because in a way it shows that there is a problem with our systems that slows down the way you get your services.
Yes.
And so one way in which, if government is watching this program today is to deal with, first sort out that 28%, make it as hard as possible to slow down the delivery of the service so that nobody will feel they need to expedite it.
So this is a clear indication that Kenyans do not really want to give bribes, because only 2.6% say they volunteered. The majority, it was demanded.
Yes.
Yeah? And
unfortunate.
Kevin?
Well, my reaction
and
to
you
this
also
is,
mentioned that people in the county should also organize and keep governors accountable and counties accountable. But from her experience alone, organizing is easier said than done.
organizing is the way to go. And as County Governance Watch, working with other stakeholders at the county levels, we organize citizens through what is called citizen action groups. Now, these are quite, as I said earlier on, they're informal. If you want to register it so that you have certificate and all that, that's up to you. But the essence is to ensure that services are delivered. So we have people organizing around water service delivery. We have people organizing around agriculture. Coffee farmers will organize on their own. People who have interests in ensuring there is a road that leads into the town to the markets will organize around that road. And from information, then we help them to understand why that is important for their work, and then linking them with certain institutional frameworks like the budget process. So that you tell them, do petitions, do your memorandum documents. When the county assembly committee convenes people at whatever forum, go with your document. Because again, unless it is written, they'll just listen to you and then they go away. I find this very, very unfortunate, because it should not happen like this in 2019, especially after 9 years of a new constitution of Kenya 2010. But it's happening because two things. One, we have given a lot of investments in the supply side, so that then we are investing in institutions, we are ensuring we have DCI, we have DPP, we have EACC that is working. But on the demand side, where is the citizens, we are not telling them, how do you engage with a prosecutor, for example? We are not telling them, what do you need to do, for example, when you are going to demonstrate? What are the prerequisites of what you need to have in your preparation box to, for example, submit to the police when they show up? The other issue is, we are not opening opportunities for citizens to really understand why they need to do certain things the way they are supposed to do. Why? Because EACC will do its work because that is our work as Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. DCI will do our work because we have been put in place to ensure that we do our work. But remember again, as we talk about deep state, who ensures that we have DCI? As he said in his example, as he made his example, where number 4 became number 1. We have had instances where IG, that the people wanted, never became the IG, despite, for example, going through a vetting process, even at the level of TV, live TV screening. In my view, I think that the proposal then would be civic education, help people understand why it is important for them to organize, put themselves in groups. 40 people is good enough, in my view, because it takes just that simple sacrifice to go to the streets and say, I am standing for this issue. But it doesn't have to stop at that level. And for me, I think we need to probably approach the Ombudsman and go deeper into this issue and ask ourselves, why are the police harassing us when it is enshrined in our constitution? Because at the county level, for example, in Kiambu, we had a very nice town hall meeting, to discuss issues around what is happening in Kiambu County. Taita Taveta, we had very exciting conversations where even MCAs came to have conversations with the citizens, and we didn't have this kind of frustration, meted on the people. And so I think that there is the process of getting it done, doing it, and then ultimately post-doing it. Once we have what we are looking for, how do we move it forward? Which then brings me to the last thing on this, where the proposal that we have is, for example, on this Auditor General's report. Citizens should not just be bombarded with big documents saying, your county had budgeted this amount of money and this is how they spent it. We got these documents, the following were never surrendered. As at the point when a road has been gazetted, we have what we call the bill of quantities. The engineer in charge of that particular project, through the county government department, must convene citizens around that area and let them know, by the way, we are going to use 14 poles on this project.
Wow,
so and so
very
is
specific details.
Yes, because that is what is in the paper. And anytime a tractor comes with maram or whatever, citizens must be there, because at that level we have what we call project development committees that also comprise the citizens. So a county government officer cannot just go and say, amukua, sasa tulionelea tuendelee tu maram imwagwe. That is not going to be happening. But what we are seeing happening is that the people use that lack of information They take advantage over it, and the citizens are like, serikali ndio walifanya. Sisi hata tu kuambia tunataka choo. You know.
Okay, and you've opened an interesting discussion about public participation, which, with the Huduma number has been a discussion. Maybe that's something for another day. Do you have any reactions to what the other panelists have said, or thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate what Eva Mutua and her team are going through. You shouldn't get intimidation from the state to do petitions as long as they are lawful. And I'd encourage you to go to the Administrative Justice, the CAJ, Commission for Administrative Justice, the Ombudsman, as Kevin has said it, and report that. That's unfortunate and should happen. But largely, I mean, guys, we have a very good country. And our country has many problems, but very easy to fix. I mean, if you go to places like Israel, it never rains. Those are big problems. If you go to places like the UAE, the whole country, 7 of them are deserts. I mean, those are huge problems. If you go to Russia, you can only go outside 2 months out of the 12. It's too cold. Those are problems, but these countries are developed. So our problems here are many, but they can be resolved by human beings. Of course, with the guidance of the Almighty here, and with the support of the citizenry. So let's also not beat down our country too much. We have a wonderful country with wonderful, educated, motivated people. We just need to mobilize them to be able to understand these are the qualities of a good leader, and if you vote in this good leader, this is what you expect in your life to change. You'll have more money in your pockets, your children will be able to go to hospital when they are sick, you'll be able to educate your children, and life generally will be enjoyable. But if you elect this one, they'll steal all the money for the medicine, or all the money for the school, or you'll be in trouble, there'll always be thieves in your house because no security, and so on and so forth. Once we get to that level of responsibility as citizens, then we'll begin to elect better leaders, and we'll be a much better country.
Over the last,
Mwananchi will be happy.
We'll be happy. Over the last 2 weeks, international press have run reports about the curtailing of freedom in at least 2 East African countries. What does that tell you in terms of where Kenya should be? Is Kenya the beacon of democracy in East Africa, in your view, despite everything that we're discussing here today? Or is Kenya in danger of imitating what is happening in some other countries?
I think we are largely the leader in the region, both economically, even in freedoms. I mean, conversations like this that we are having, let's call a spade, might not be able to be possible in other places. Screen would go black, and by the time the screen comes back, only the cameraman will be here. all of us will be in the back of
which is why we need to get him an Uber from here.
So we have to appreciate some of the good things we have, and I think we are largely democratic. All we are trying to say is that we should not compare ourselves with the Sudans and the Somalias. Okay. We should compare ourselves with the United Kingdoms and the Germanys and the United States, because that's where we are as a people. Okay. Yeah, and that's what we should aspire to be. And as long as we are not at that level of democracy, of progress, of development, of citizen rights, then I think we need to continue fighting.
All right, Elizabeth, the report made a lot of recommendations: make corruption expensive, eliminate bureaucratic red tapes, name and shame the corrupt, compulsory recovery of corruption assets and proceeds. There's a proposal by EACC to have ADR, alternative dispute resolution, where you easily just volunteer, say, well, I acquired this land in a way that I can't explain, so you can have it back. And they say they've received almost 2.5 billion or 4 billion worth of assets through ADR. Is that an option that should be considered in your view? Because I didn't see it in part of the recommendation.
It is an option, but we haven't seen it work well with corruption cases. I'm surprised that EACC, would report such a success, because it is unlikely that somebody comes forward to say, I have taken this and I'm willing to surrender it, and that's why we haven't considered it much. It works very well for other types of cases, but in our analysis, it's not something that sounds practical for the kind of issue that we're talking about, because corruption is quite complex. And, you know, it manifests itself in very many ways. And people who are in the system don't want to get out of it. So, and if you're talking about the deep state, nobody will surrender and say, I am part of the people that have been making the system not work, because I am fueling it in this particular way, waiting for it in this other way. But to speak about the relationship between this and rights, I would say that one of the rights that we have and that is protected in the Constitution is the freedom of conscience. But what the Constitution does not tell us is how you express it. So these people express their freedom of conscience because they have strong convictions against Kenya Power and the way it has been billing them. But, you know, the government curtails it by unleashing fear, by unleashing terror, and all these other ways. I think in some ways we you know, we are moving backwards in terms of rights because of the manner in which the state has decided to engage its citizens, so that there's always confrontation whenever people want to come up and engage. And I can tell you that particularly for communities that live in close proximity to corporations, because we work on business and human rights, we have had cases where we are working with communities that are pretty organized, communities that have been fighting for land justice, for historical land injustice claims that they have had for very many years against huge corporations that came into being during, you know, the settler period. You know, they amassed lots of land and they pushed people away from their farms. And whenever these people want to organize, to meet, you know, the chiefs have been writing to them and telling them that this is illegal, you know, you're contravening the law, and so on and so forth. And you can already see the power of the corporation and the capture of the corporation of the state.
Of the state in that. Okay. Kevin, how would you wrap up? What are the thoughts you want to leave us with today?
I'm very excited about talk and all the conversations around the war on graft. Why am I? Because for a long period of time, civil society organizations like all of us have been asking for political goodwill. I think His Excellency the President has been out there saying we must deal with this issue. And so that really needs to be seen to be happening. And yes, Kenyans can see that it is happening, but I think we must move up to the tail end and ensure that certain big names actually are behind bars. It's happening in countries, you know, where, as my friend and brother is comparing us to, you know, the superpowers. And of course, we are a superpower around here. If presidents in certain countries, you know, can actually be jailed and sentenced, why can't we have cabinet secretaries in this country going through the same? Because we have institutions that are working, and that is part of the governance system that we have. So let the institutions discharge their mandates, do what they need to do, and follow suit. Two, let's not politicize the war on graft, because part of why the government is behaving like that is just because the house is being run by two people. So we have president who is constantly asking his deputy president, please join me in this issue about war on graft and the Big Four. Let's push this country together. The DP goes to the counties and says, I support the president. Comes back to Nairobi and, you know. So I think, in my view, including all their lieutenants, there must be a manner in which the head of the house, you know, is seen to be moving towards where the citizens can basically the interest of the citizens resonating with what the head of the house, in this case His Excellency the President, is doing. Three, the power of the people is greater than the people in power. We must constantly organize as Kenyans, because this is our country, and unless we are not interested in the future, that future is going to judge us very harshly.
Fair enough. Thank you. And your last words?
For me, it's investing in software. And what do I mean? It's investing in you and me, empowering you and me, so that we can understand what our rights are, know that we are protected. We need to move out of our comfort zones and do things that are not normal. People talk about the EJ6ers. Who are we? We are normal Kenyans. I was pinched by heavy billing. Yes, motivated to pay by fear, but I was like, I'm not going to stop here. I must find a way out of this maze. So yes, there are court cases, and yes, there's also that process. We must believe in due process, even though it's slow, even though there's the fear of your files being cannibalized, you know, in the court process. We must follow due process to be able to achieve our ends, and we can't keep silent. We should not allow intimidation to keep us silent, and that's why I'm here. You know, before it's just been Cheretich, and she's been the front, but I cannot be quiet and hide, yet this is something that I believe in. So I hope that, you know, by people seeing us on the street, seeing us talk about it, keep on tweeting about it, there'll be more interest in various issues on the things that affect us as Kenyans.
Might we see you on the street again if you get the license and approval?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I will take a day off. I will make sure that I've got my running shoes just in case. My resolve is...
I saw a video, I wish we had it. In Hong Kong, they have learned how to deal with tear gas.
Yeah.
When it's lobbed at them, they have, you know, the traffic cones.
Yes.
They put it on top of the tear gas canister, so it doesn't disperse enough. Then someone comes with water,
Send it back.
pours the water, and
Send to receive.
no, not even send. They neutralize it.
They neutralize
They
it.
neutralize it then. Yeah.
So it never goes
and
off.
it's a team of 3 quickly coming, and within a minute they've dealt with that tear gas, and they are
waiting for the next canister.
They're actually waiting for the next canister. Hong Kong, of course, there have been quite some protests there. So, well, what are your thoughts? You've SMS'd us, you've tweeted in. Let's take a look at some of them.
All right, let's bring them up now. It's hashtag Daybreak at Citizen TV Kenya. Trevor Mbija Twaiga Moura. This is what Agumba Steve is saying. Devolution was a very good aspect of our 2010 constitution, but graft cases are making us reap nothing out of it. Therefore, the tight war and strict judicial fight against corruption is what will make us maximize the benefits of devolution.
Okay, that's Agumba Steve on Twitter, hashtag Daybreak. Let's take a look at another one here. This one from Kennedy Atinda 1. For corruption, we are all to be blamed. Electorates and the leaders. The electorates have heightened their political game where they have the issue of handouts, which is becoming the norm. Seriously, the leaders must therefore dig deep beyond their limits to please us. Okay.
All right. Kennedy, they're taking responsibility, and let's see who else is speaking to us here. Jora says, I'm Arnold from Kibwezi West. How can I be getting bills of over 5,000 shillings for just 2 months, yet I have a TV set and just lighting? What is happening with KPLC? It needs intervention.
Okay, we have 3 more. Let's take a look at the next one here. This one is from... All right, we're still waiting.
Deep state capture. This is the system is captured.
Software challenge. Eric McNair. The basic services to be rendered in a quick way are lasting for months, like the case of passport applications. Why then don't we apply through eCitizen? This is where bribing will come in if you have to urgently travel. Okay. And that's the 28% who want to expedite the service, according to that 2016 EACC report.
David says, I thought constitution is a structure through which the challenges mentioned by Mweke are achieved. The question would be on fundamentals of change.
Okay. Team Nyangendo, if the constitution was to bring the change, then from 2010 we ought to be living the change. But look at us now, poorer than we were then. Let's be realistic. How much will a referendum cost? What else can be done with that money? Citizen concern. Yes. Valid. If we give you a chance to respond, we'll start again. We are well past 8 o'clock. So we take that break
now? We have to leave it there. Yes, thank you so much for coming in this morning. Kevin Nosido, Executive Director, Governance Watch. Jonathan Mweke, former Deputy Governor, Nairobi. Eva Mutua, activist and member, Switch Off KPLC. Elizabeth Kariuki, Program Manager, Economic and Social Justice, Kenya Human Rights Commission. Asante sana for making time this morning. This conversation on the war on graft will definitely not end here. It is something we'll still pursue even more. But for now, Daybreak takes a short break. See you in a bit.